The royal palace shook. Princess Hannah grabbed the edge of her command table as another explosion rocked the building. Through the tall windows, she could see the capital city burning. The once proud towers of the Nexus Empire now crumbled under rebel attacks. "Your Highness, we must leave now." Ta, her personal guard, stood at the door. His armor was dented and stained with blue blood. Not his own. The rebels have breached the inner defenses. Hannah looked around her private chambers one last time. For 23 years, this had been her home. The center of an empire that ruled 300 star systems. "My father?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "The Emperor has fallen," Ta said. His face showed no emotion, but his hands tightened on his weapon. "You are the last of the royal line now." A distant boom shook dust from the ceiling. Screams echoed through the halls. "There is no time, Princess," Tai insisted. "The royal escape vessel is waiting." Hannah nodded once. She grabbed only her father's data crystal from her desk and followed Tai into the corridor. 4 more guards joined them, forming a protective circle around her as they moved through the palace. Bodies littered the grand hall. Palace staff, royal guards, and rebels alike. Hannah had never seen death up close before. She forced herself to look straight ahead. "The Empire has stood for 900 years, she said. "How could it fall in just 3 days?" "The rebellion spread too quickly," Tai answered as they hurried down a hidden passage. Too many conquered worlds rose up at once. They reached the underground hangar where a sleek ship waited. Its engines hummed, ready for flight. The ship was small but fast, built for a royal escape, not comfort. "Captain Sue is waiting inside," Ta said. "He will take us to the outpost on Vega Prime where loyal forces are gathering." A massive explosion rocked the hangar. 2 of the guards fell as debris crashed down. Hannah felt something warm splash her face. Blood from one of her protectors. "Run," Ta shouted, pulling her toward the ship. Rebel fighters poured into the hangar. Blaster fire filled the air with harsh light and the smell of burning metal. The remaining guards returned fire, covering the princess's escape. Hannah raced up the boarding ramp. Ta followed, firing his weapon one-handed while pushing her inside with the other. The ship's doors sealed shut behind them. "Captain, launch now," Tai ordered. The ship lurched upward. Through the viewport, Hannah watched her homeworld grow smaller. The grand cities that had been the pride of the Nexus Empire were now just dots of fire on the planet's surface. "Course set for Vega Prime," Captain Sue announced from the control room. "But we've taken damage to the navigation systems. The rebels hit us before we cleared the atmosphere." Hannah sank into a seat, still staring at her dying world. "How many others escaped?" "Unknown, Your Highness," Ta said. He checked the ship's communication systems. All Imperial channels are filled with rebel declarations of victory. They claim the entire royal family is dead. "Let them think that," Hannah said. "It gives us time to regroup." The ship shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed across all panels. "Navigation failure," Captain Sue called out. "The damage is worse than I thought. Our course is shifting." "Can you correct it?" Tai asked, moving to the control room. "Trying, but the system is failing. We're being pulled off course by a gravity well." Hannah joined them at the controls. The star map showed their trajectory veering away from Vega Prime toward an unmarked sector. "What's there?" she asked. Captain Sue checked the old Imperial records. System EX-1742. A single planet. Uninhabited. His voice grew quieter. It was subject to Imperial cleansing protocols 20 Earth years ago. The natives were eliminated. "What natives?" Hannah asked. "A species called humans," Tai answered. "Their world was called Earth." The ship's engines whined as Captain Sue tried to correct their course. Sparks flew from the control panel. "It's no use," he said. "We're going to crash land on Earth." Hannah stared at the approaching planet on the screen. A world her empire had destroyed. A world where no one should be alive. The last princess of the Nexus Empire was about to touch down on a dead planet, or so she thought. June woke to the sound of his alarm system. He opened his eyes quickly, fully alert. 15 years of survival had trained him to wake instantly. In a world where he was the only human left, sleep could mean death. He sat up on his simple bed inside the underground bunker. The walls around him were lined with screens showing different parts of the ruined city above. Once it had been Seoul, a busy place full of people. Now it was empty buildings and broken streets. His home, his kingdom. Alert. Object entering atmosphere. Alert, said the computer voice. It spoke in the language of the aliens who had destroyed Earth. June had learned their language from the ships they left behind. June moved to the main control panel. His fingers, partly metal now, tapped across the screen. The left side of his face shone with a faint blue light where he had put alien tech under his skin. A small screen built into his left eye showed him data about the falling object. Ship type, he asked. Imperial transport. Small class. Damaged. The computer answered. June's mouth formed a hard line. The Nexus Empire. The ones who had killed everyone. The ones who had tried to kill him. Show me, he said. On the largest screen, he watched a small ship falling through the clouds. It was burning, leaving a trail of smoke. It would crash soon. Maybe 10 minutes away. June moved quickly. He pulled on his armor, a mix of human military gear and alien tech he had taken from crashed ships over the years. Each piece made him stronger, faster than a normal human. He was not normal anymore. He had made himself into something else, something that could fight back. He picked up his favorite weapon. It looked like a rifle, but it fired energy that could cut through alien armor. He had killed many alien scouts with it. Any who dared to come back to Earth. Defense systems ready? He asked. All systems online, the computer said. June nodded. He had spent years finding and fixing the old defense systems that had failed during the attack. Now they answered to him alone. He walked to the elevator that would take him to the surface. Before stepping in, he touched a small photo on the wall. It showed a family, his family, all dead now. All turned to ash when the aliens bombed the planet. I'm still here, he whispered to them. I'm still fighting. The elevator rose quickly through layers of concrete and metal. When the doors opened, June stepped out into the ruins of what had once been a shopping mall. Birds flew away as he appeared. Nature was taking back the city. Green plants pushed through cracks in the concrete. June moved silently through the ruins. He knew every broken building, every safe path. This was his territory. He climbed to the top of a half-fallen office building that gave him a good view. In the distance, the alien ship was coming down fast. Too fast for a normal landing. It would crash in the old park. June could see smoke already trailing behind it. Through his enhanced eye, he zoomed in on the ship. It was definitely Nexus Empire design, the same kind that had brought death to his world, but smaller than the warships, maybe a transport or escape vessel. June checked his weapon. Time for them to learn that Earth isn't as dead as they think, he said to himself. He activated his body enhancements. Energy flowed through the tech in his muscles. He could run faster than any normal human now. Jump higher. Fight longer. When the aliens had tried to destroy humanity, they had left behind the tools that made him more than human. June started moving toward the crash site. His steps were light and fast. In his mind, he was already planning. If there were survivors, he would watch them first, learn why they had come, then decide if they should die quickly or slowly. The ship disappeared behind buildings as it fell. A moment later, a loud crash echoed through the empty city. Birds flew up from trees. Dust rose into the air. June smiled. Visitors had arrived. But they would not find Earth empty. They would find him. And he had been waiting for this moment for 15 long years. The ship hit the ground hard. Metal screamed as it tore apart. Inside, Princess Hana was thrown against her safety straps. Pain shot through her body. Warning lights flashed red. Smoke filled the cabin. Your Highness, Are you hurt? Tay's voice came through the smoke. He was still at his post, though blood ran down his face from a cut on his head. I'm fine, Hannah said, but her arm hurt when she moved it. Captain Sue. No answer came from the control room. Ta pushed through the smoke to check. When he returned, his face was grim. He did not survive the crash, Ta said simply. Hannah closed her eyes for a moment. Another death. Another loss. When she opened them again, she was Princess Hannah, last of the royal line. She could not show weakness. We need to check the ship's systems, she said. Can we send a distress call? Ta moved to the main panel. Most of the screens were dark. The few that still worked showed bad news. Communications are dead, he said. Life support is failing. We need to leave the ship soon. Hannah looked at the viewport. It showed a strange world outside. Tall buildings stood broken against the sky. Plants grew over ruins. This was Earth, the human world. A world her empire had bombed 15 years ago. There should be nothing alive here. The air outside, she asked. Can we breathe it? Tai checked a working scanner. Yes, the atmosphere is safe, but our records say this planet is uninhabited now. We have no choice, Hannah said. She unbuckled her safety straps and stood carefully. Her royal clothes were torn and dirty from the crash. For the first time in her life, she looked less than perfect. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. Tay rushed to the weapons panel. Defense systems, he said, his voice tight. Local defense systems are targeting our ship. Human systems? Hannah asked in surprise. How is that possible? The cleansing was complete. Unknown, Your Highness, but we have incoming fire in 30 seconds. Ta grabbed emergency packs from the wall and handed one to Hannah. Then he took her arm and pulled her toward the emergency exit. We must run, he said. The ship will be destroyed soon. The exit door opened with a hiss. Sunlight, real and bright, hit Hannah's face. She had never been on a planet other than her homeworld before. The air smelled strange, rich with plants and earth. This way, Ta said, helping her down from the ship. His own movements were stiff with pain. The crash had hurt him worse than he showed. They had just cleared the ship when the first shot hit. A beam of energy cut through one wing of the ship. Ta pushed Hannah down behind a fallen wall as more shots came. The ship began to burn. Go, Your Highness, Ta said, pulling out his weapon. Run for those buildings. I will cover you. I'm not leaving you, Hannah said. Ta looked at her directly, something he would never dare do in normal times. Princess, you are the last of the royal line. The Empire needs you alive. I will follow when I can. Another blast hit the ship. Parts flew into the air. Time was running out. That's an order, Ta said firmly. Hannah hesitated, then nodded once. She had never been alone in her life. Always surrounded by guards and servants. The thought of running by herself into an unknown world filled her with fear. But she was royal. She would not show fear. Find me, she said to Ta. Then she turned and ran toward the ruined buildings. Behind her, Ta fired his weapon at hidden targets, drawing their fire away from her. The sound of energy weapons filled the air. Hannah ran faster, her royal boots not made for running. Her breathing came quick and hard. At the edge of the ruins, she looked back once. The ship was fully burning now. Ta was a small figure still firing from behind cover. Then she entered the ruins of the human city, alone for the first time in her life. A princess with no empire, on a world that should have no life. But something had shot at their ship. Something was still alive on Earth, and it was hunting her. June moved through the ruins like a shadow. He had reached the crash site just in time to see two aliens leave their burning ship. His enhanced eyes zoomed in on them. One wore fancy clothes, now torn and dirty. The other wore armor and carried a weapon. He watched as they split up. The armored one stayed to fight. The other ran into the ruins. June made a quick choice. The armed one was the bigger threat. He would deal with that one first. June circled around the crash site, staying low and quiet. The alien was hurt but still dangerous. He fired at the city's defense guns that June controlled from his wrist device. June studied how the alien moved, how he held his weapon. This was no common soldier. His movements showed special training. When the alien took cover behind a fallen tree, June made his move. He fired a stun shot. The alien fell, but was not out. He tried to raise his weapon. June fired again. This time, the alien stayed down. June approached carefully. He had fought alien scouts before. They could be tricky. But this one was truly hurt. Blue blood soaked his side from a wound that had opened wider during the fight. "Who are you?" June asked in the alien language. He pressed his weapon against the alien's head. The alien's eyes widened in shock. "You speak our tongue." "Impossible. No human survived the cleansing." "I survived," June said simply. "Now talk. Why are you here?" The alien coughed. More blue blood appeared on his lips. "To protect the princess." June went still. "Princess, your empire sent royalty here." "Why?" "Not sent. Escaped. Empire has fallen." The alien's voice grew weaker. "Rebels took the capital. Princess Hana is last of royal line." June processed this news quickly. The empire that had destroyed Earth was now itself destroyed. And their princess was here, on his world. "The one who ran into the ruins," June said. "That's your princess." The alien nodded. "Keep her safe. If rebels find her." "Why should I care what happens to her?" June's voice turned hard. "Her family killed my world." The alien's eyes were closing. He was passing out from blood loss. Not her fault. She didn't know. Only 23 years old. She was just a child then. June checked the alien's wound. It was bad but not fatal if treated soon. He made a quick decision. He tied the alien up and gave him a shot from his medical kit. It would keep him alive until June returned. "If you lied to me, I'll finish you when I get back," June said. But the alien was already unconscious. June stood and looked toward the ruins where the princess had fled. A royal member of the empire that had destroyed Earth was now in his city. The idea filled him with both anger and opportunity. A high-value prisoner could be useful. He moved into the ruins, following the princess's trail. She was easy to track. She had no skills for this world. Her fancy boots left clear prints in the dust. Broken plants showed her path. She had run in fear, not thinking about being followed. Meanwhile, Princess Hana had stopped running. Her side hurt from the effort. She had never run so far in her life. The buildings around her were strange and broken. Some had fallen into piles of stone and metal. Others still stood but with broken windows like empty eyes. She took out a small device from her emergency pack. It was supposed to show her position and safe routes, but it showed only static. The crash had damaged it. She was truly alone, with no way to find Ty again. A noise made her freeze. Something moved among the ruins. Hana pressed herself against a wall, trying to be invisible. She took out the small energy pistol from her pack. All royals were trained to shoot, but she had never fired at a living thing before. The noise came closer. Hana held her breath. Then, stepping around a fallen column, came a figure that made her gasp. A human. An impossible human. He was tall and strong, with strange metal parts on his face and arms. His left eye glowed with blue light. He held a large weapon pointed directly at her. "Don't move, princess," he said in perfect Nexus language, "or this conversation ends before it starts." Hana raised her chin, trying to look royal even in her fear. "I am Princess Hana of the Nexus Empire. You will bow before me, human." The human's mouth curved in what might have been a smile, but it held no joy. "The Nexus Empire is gone, princess, and on Earth, you bow to me." Princess Hana had never been a prisoner before. Now she sat on a hard chair in a strange room deep under the ruined city. Her hands were tied in front of her with strong wire. The human called Jun had taken her energy pistol. The room was filled with alien technology, her people's technology. Screens showed different parts of the city above. Weapons hung on the walls. The human had built himself a fortress from the ruins of Earth. "Drink," Jun said, putting a cup of water in front of her. "It's not poison." Hannah looked at the cup but did not move. She was royal. She would not show weakness. "Your guard will live," Jun said. "I treated his wounds. He's in another room, also tied up. Tai is alive." For the first time, Hannah's voice showed emotion. "Take me to him." "You don't give orders here, princess." Jun's voice was cold. He tapped something on his wrist device. One of the large screens changed to show a video. "Watch," he said. The screen showed a city much like the ruins above, but whole and full of life. Humans walked the streets. They looked so much like her own people, but with different colors and shapes. Then the sky filled with ships, Nexus Empire ships. Beams of energy shot down. Buildings fell. People ran. They burned. "No," Hannah whispered. "This isn't real." Humans were dangerous. They needed to be stopped. Stopped. Jun's voice grew louder. 8 billion people lived on Earth. Families, children, all gone in 3 days of bombing. He pointed to his face, to the metal parts. "I survived because I was deep underground when they hit my city. I was military, trained to fight, but there was no one left to fight for." The video kept playing. More cities burning, more people dying. Then a new image appeared. A man in royal robes washed from a ship above Earth. "Your father," Jun said. "The Emperor." He watched it all happen. Hannah felt sick. The man on the screen was indeed her father. She had never seen this recording, never known he had personally watched the cleansing of Earth. "We were taught that humans were dangerous," she said, "that you would have destroyed other worlds if the Empire hadn't stopped you." Jun laughed, but there was no joy in it. We hadn't even reached our closest planets yet. We had just started to explore space. He turned off the video. "Your empire feared what we might become, so they tried to wipe us out." "Tried." Hannah looked at him closely now. "But you survived. Are there others?" Jun was quiet for a long moment. "No, just me. For 15 years, just me." Hannah tried to imagine it. 15 years alone. The last of his kind. Even now, with her empire fallen, she was not alone. Other Nexus people lived across many worlds. "What will you do with me?" she asked at last. "I haven't decided yet." Jun turned away and checked something on another screen. "Your guard said rebels destroyed your empire, that they're hunting you. Is that true?" Hannah nodded slowly. 3 days ago, I was next in line to rule 300 star systems. Now I am nothing." "Not nothing," Jun said. "You're the daughter of the man who ordered my world destroyed. That makes you very valuable." "As a prisoner, or as a trophy?" Hannah asked. "As leverage," Jun answered. "Your empire took everything from me. Maybe you can help me take something back." Before Hannah could answer, an alarm sounded. Jun moved quickly to the main control panel. "What is it?" Hannah asked. "Another ship, larger than yours." Jun's face was grim as he studied the screen. "It's entered Earth's atmosphere and is scanning for your vessel." Fear showed on Hannah's face now. "The rebels. They found us." "No," Jun said, looking closer at the data. "This ship has Imperial markings. Your people found you first." Hannah shook her head. "Not my people. Not anymore. If they're Imperial ships after the rebellion, they're not here to rescue me." "What then?" Jun asked. Hannah looked him straight in the eyes. "They're here to kill me. The new leaders will want no royals left alive." For the first time, human and princess shared a look of understanding. They both knew what it meant to be hunted. Jun moved quickly around his control room. His fingers flew over screens as he checked his defense systems. The new Imperial ship was larger than the princess's escape vessel. It carried weapons. It carried soldiers. "How many will be on that ship?" he asked Hannah. "If it's a hunter squad, 12 to 15, she answered. Her voice was steady now. Fear had turned to focus. Elite soldiers, trained to kill. June nodded. "Why do they want you dead?" "Royal blood," Hannah said. "As long as I live, rebels and loyalists might rally to me. The new leaders cannot allow that." She looked at June with new eyes. "Untie me. I can help you." June laughed. "Help me? Why would you do that?" "Because we both want to live." Hannah held up her tied hands. "Those hunters will kill me. And they will kill you too. A human survivor would be too dangerous to leave alive." June studied her face. He had learned to read Nexus expressions over the years. She was not lying. "What can you offer me?" he asked. "I know Imperial tactics. I know how hunter squads work. I was trained in royal defense protocols." Hannah's eyes never left his. "And I know you cannot fight 15 elite soldiers alone, even with your enhancements." On the screen, the Imperial ship landed 3 miles from their position. "They're searching the crash site first," June said. "We have maybe 1 hour." He made his decision and cut Hannah's bonds. "Betray me, and I'll kill you before they can," he warned. "I understand." Hannah rubbed her wrists. "Where is Ta? We need him." "Your guard is too injured to fight," June said. "But he's stable." Hannah seemed relieved. "Show me your defenses." For the next 30 minutes, they worked together. Hannah looked at June's maps of the city and pointed out the best places for traps. June showed her the weapons he had collected. She knew how they all worked. "Your people left many things behind when they bombed us," June said as he handed her a small energy pistol. "I've had 15 years to study them. You've learned well." Hannah checked the weapon with practiced hands. For someone who had no teachers. "Death is a good teacher," June said flatly. On the screens, they watched the hunter squad finish at the crash site. The soldiers split into 3 groups and began moving toward the city. "They're following standard search pattern," Hannah said. "They'll sweep through the ruins in lines. Then we'll break their lines," Jun said. He tapped his wrist device. "I set remote charges throughout the city. When they reach the first line of buildings, we'll welcome them." June led Hannah to a room where Ta lay on a bed. The guard's wounds were bandaged. He was awake but weak. "Princess." Ta tried to sit up when he saw her. "You're alive. Save your strength," she told him. She turned to June. "We should move him. This place may not be safe soon." June shook his head. "No time. We need to get to position." They climbed up to the surface through a hidden exit. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the ruins. June moved like a ghost through broken buildings. Hannah followed, trying to match his silence. They reached a tall building that still stood. From its top floor, they could see much of the city. June set up his long-range weapon by a window. "The first group will reach that street in 2 minutes," he said, pointing. "When they do, I'll trigger the charges. That's when we start firing." Hannah took position at another window with her pistol. Her hands were steady. Years of royal training were useful now. "Why did you save Ta?" she asked suddenly. "You could have let him die." June didn't look at her. "I've seen enough death. Even alien death." The first group of hunters appeared on the street below. 5 soldiers in full battle gear. They moved with military precision, checking every shadow. "Ready?" June asked. "Ready," Hannah answered. June's finger hovered over his wrist device. "For different reasons, Princess, but today we fight on the same side." He pressed the button. The street exploded. The battle for Earth had begun. The battle lasted for hours. June and Hannah moved from building to building, setting traps and ambushes. 3 of the hunters were lost in the first explosion. 2 more fell to June's precise shots. Another was caught in a trap Hannah had suggested. Now, As night fell over the ruined city, they rested in a small room high in a broken tower. The remaining hunters had pulled back to regroup. It gave them a short break. "They'll attack again at dawn," Hannah said. She was cleaning her energy pistol. Her royal clothes were now torn and dirty, stained with dust and blue blood. "That's standard procedure." June nodded. He was checking his wrist device, which showed the positions of the remaining hunters. Still 9 left. Too many. "We did well today," Hannah said. 6 elite hunters defeated by just 2 fighters. 1 human and 1 princess, June corrected. He looked at her with new respect. "You fight well for royalty." "All Nexus royals are trained to fight," Hannah said. "I just never had to use that training until now." June stood and looked out the broken window at the dark city. "We should get back to the bunker to check on your guard and plan our next move." They moved carefully through the ruins, using back routes that June had mapped over years. The city was silent except for the night wind through empty buildings. When they reached the bunker, Ty was awake and stronger. He tried to stand when Hannah entered. "Princess, they told me you were." "Easy, Ty," Hannah said, helping him lie back down. "I'm fine. The human and I have been fighting the hunters together." Ty looked shocked. "Fighting together?" "We have the same enemy now," Jun said simply. While Hannah checked Ta's wounds, Jun went to his main control room. Something had been bothering him, a question with no answer. "Princess," he called. "Come look at this." Hannah joined him at the main screen. Jun was looking at old Imperial files he had stolen from crashed ships over the years. "These records contain the official reason for Earth's cleansing," he said. "It says humans were dangerous, too warlike, too unpredictable." Hannah nodded. "That's what I was taught. That humans would have destroyed themselves and threatened other worlds if not stopped. But look at this," Jun pointed to another file. "This is a secret military report. It talks about human technology, about how fast we were developing, about something called Project Bridge." Hannah looked closer. As she read, her face changed. "This can't be right." "What is it?" June asked. "This report says humans were close to developing faster than light travel, a new kind that would be better than Nexus technology." Hannah's voice was quiet with shock. "And it says the Emperor, my father, ordered Earth's destruction not because humans were dangerous, but because they were advancing too quickly." June's face was grim. "Your empire wasn't protecting the galaxy from us. They were protecting themselves from competition." Hannah kept reading, her hands shaking slightly. "They lied to everyone, to all our people, to me." She looked up at June. The savage species story was just a cover. "Power fears challenges," June said. "Your father feared what we might become." Hannah turned to him with new eyes. "And what did you become?" June touched the technology embedded in his face. "I became what they feared. I took their weapons, their tech, their knowledge. I made myself something new. The very thing they tried to prevent." Hannah whispered. Before June could answer, an alarm sounded. The screen showed movement near one of the bunker's hidden entrances. "Someone's close," June said, checking the sensors. But when the bunker door opened, it wasn't hunters who entered. It was Ta. He had forced himself up from his bed. He held a small Nexus blade, and his eyes were full of anger. "Get away from the princess, human," he shouted, lunging at June. "Ta. No." Hannah moved between them. "He's not our enemy." June dodged the weak attack easily. Tai was still too injured to fight well. "The Empire lied to us, Ta," Hannah said, holding her guard back. "They lied about why Earth was destroyed. I've seen the proof." Ta looked confused, his loyalty battling with his trust in his princess. "Show him," Hannah said to June. "Show him the truth." The bunker shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. On the main screen, June could see hunter ships firing at the city above. "They're done playing games," he said. "They're trying to flush us out." Ta stood beside him, looking at the screens. After seeing the proof about Earth's destruction, the guard had finally accepted the truth. Now he stood ready to fight, though still weak from his wounds. "They've called in air support," Ta said. "Standard procedure when ground teams fail." Hannah checked the weapons they had gathered. "How long before they find this bunker?" "Not long," June answered. "Their scanners will detect the power systems eventually." Another explosion rocked the bunker. Closer this time. "We need a new plan," Hannah said. "We can't fight ships from down here." June was quiet for a moment. Then he walked to a wall and pressed his hand against it. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a small room. Inside was strange equipment, part Nexus technology, part human design. "What is that?" Tai asked. "Earth's last defense," Jum said. "I spent 15 years building it from pieces of your technology and ours." Hannah stepped closer. "Is this what I think it is?" June nodded. "Based on Project Bridge, the very technology your father feared. You rebuilt it." Hannah could not hide her amazement. "Alone?" "Not exactly rebuilt," June said. "I made something new, something better." Another explosion hit, even closer. Warning lights flashed on the control panels. "They found us," Ta said. 3 minutes at most before they break through." June turned to Hannah and Ta. "I need to get to the city center. There's a larger version of this device there. It can take down their ships, but I have to activate it manually." "That's suicide," Ta said. "The hunters will be all over the city." "Not if they're busy chasing you too," Jun replied. He handed Tai a small device. "This will lead you to an emergency exit. It comes out 3 miles from here. Get the princess to safety." "I'm coming with you," Hannah said firmly. Jun shook his head. "No, you need to." The bunker shook violently. Part of the ceiling collapsed. "They found the main entrance," Ta shouted. "They're breaking through." Jun grabbed his main weapon and extra power cells. No more time to argue. "Tai, get her out." "No," Hannah said again. She picked up an energy rifle. "I'm tired of running. This is my fight too." Before June could answer, the main door exploded inward. 3 hunters rushed in, weapons firing. June pushed Hannah behind a control panel as energy bolts filled the air. Tai, despite his wounds, fired back. He hit 1 hunter before diving for cover. June's enhancements activated. His movements became blur-fast. He leaped over a console and fired in midair, taking down another hunter. But the third got off a shot that hit June in the shoulder. He fell hard but kept firing. Hannah rose from cover and shot the last hunter square in the chest. The hunter fell. "June." She ran to where he lay. "How bad?" "I'll live," he said through gritted teeth. His wound was serious, but his enhanced body was already working to heal it. "But there are more coming. We need to move now." They could hear more hunters entering the bunker. The sounds of boots on metal came closer. "I have an idea," Hannah said. She helped June up. "Tai, set charges on the main power core. Overload it." Tai looked shocked. "That will destroy the entire bunker." "Exactly," Hannah said. "It will buy us time and take out some hunters." June nodded. "The emergency exit. Quickly." They moved through the bunker as Tai set the charges. More hunters appeared at the end of a corridor. June and Hannah fired together, driving them back. They'd reached the small escape tunnel just as the first charges Tai had set began to explode. The tunnel was narrow, barely big enough to crawl through. "Go," Jum said, pushing Hannah into the tunnel first. Todd followed. June came last, firing back at hunters who had spotted them. As they crawled through the dark passage, the bunker exploded behind them. The tunnel shook so hard that they thought it might collapse. But it held. Finally, they reached the exit. It opened into a small cave hidden by trees and vines. Outside, dawn was breaking over the ruined city. "Now what?" Tai asked. June looked toward the city center, where tall buildings still stood. Now we make our final stand. The sun rose over the broken city. June, Hana, and Ta moved carefully through ruins, avoiding open spaces. Hunter ships flew overhead, scanning for them. Time was running out. They reached a tall building that still stood in the center of the city. It had once been a proud tower of glass and steel. Now it was a skeleton reaching toward the sky. "In there," Jun said, pointing to a hidden entrance. "The device is on the top floor." Inside, they climbed stairs in darkness. Jun's wounds slowed him down, but he pushed forward. Hana stayed close, helping him when needed. Todd went ahead, checking for danger. "What exactly is this device?" Hana asked as they climbed. "A signal amplifier," Jun explained. "Based on Project Bridge, it doesn't just send messages, it can override other systems. Even Nexus ship controls. You can take control of their ships." Ta sounded impressed. "Not exactly," Jun said, "but I can shut them down. All of them at once." They reached the top floor. Large windows showed the city in all directions. Jun moved to a covered machine in the center of the room. He pulled off the cover to reveal a complex device, a mix of Nexus tech and human-made parts. "This is it?" Hana asked. "It doesn't look like much." "Neither did I when your empire found us," Jun said. "But looks can be wrong." Tai called from the window. They'd spotted us. 6 hunter ships coming this way. Jun worked quickly at the device. Panels opened. Lights began to glow. "I need 5 minutes to power it up," he said. "Can you buy me that time?" Hana and Ta moved to defensive positions by the windows. They had set traps on the lower floors, but they knew hunters would get through. "For the record, Princess," Ta said as he readied his weapon, "this is not how I imagined your reign would begin." Hana gave a small smile. "Nor I, Ta. Nor I." The first hunter ship fired at the building. The whole structure shook. Dust and small pieces of ceiling fell. "They're trying to drop the building," Ta shouted. "Almost there," Jun called from the device. It was humming now, vibrating with power. The first hunters reached their floor. Energy blasts flew through the doorway. Tai and Hana returned fire. 2 hunters fell, but more came. "Jun," Hana called. Now would be good. A blast caught Ta in the arm. He fell back, but kept firing with his good hand. Hana moved to cover him, her royal training showing in every precise shot. "Got it," Jun shouted. The device now glowed bright blue. Energy crackled around it. "Get down." Hana pulled Ta to the floor as Jun pressed the final activation. A wave of energy burst from the device, spreading outward in a blue circle. It passed through the walls like they weren't there. When it hit the hunter ships, they froze in midair. Then, one by one, they fell from the sky. Not fast. Their emergency systems lowered them slowly, but they were powerless. The hunters in the building suddenly stopped firing. Their weapons and armor went dead. "It worked," Hana whispered. She stood slowly, looking at the fallen ships through the window. 15 years of work, Jun said. He looked tired but satisfied. "Worth it." They bound the surviving hunters who could no longer fight without their powered armor. As the sun rose higher, they stood on the roof of the building, looking at the quiet city. Then Taz's emergency communicator beeped. A message was coming through. He looked at it with surprise. "It's from the outer colonies," he said. "Resistance forces. They've been monitoring Imperial channels. They know about the princess's escape, about the hunters sent to kill her." "What do they want?" Hana asked. "They're offering alliance," Ta said. "Many worlds are breaking away from both the rebels and what's left of the Empire. They want leadership, someone with a vision for something better." Hana looked at Jun. "I never wanted to rule like my father did. Now I see why." She turned back to Ta. "Tell them I accept, but on new terms. No more empire. No more conquering. We build something better." "And what about Earth?" Jun asked. "What about me?" Earth needs a protector, Hannah said. Someone to help it heal. She paused. But the stars need you too, June. Your knowledge, your strength. Humanity deserves its place among the stars that was stolen from them. June looked out at his ruined world. For 15 years, he had been alone, the last human. Now he had a chance for more. I'll go, he said finally, but not as a subject, as an equal. I would expect nothing less from humanity's greatest survivor, Hannah said with respect in her voice. Together, they began planning their journey to the stars, not as princess and subject or enemies, but as something new, something better. The last human and the last princess, the end of old empires and the beginning of something new.